Hey everybody, welcome to Reviewed. I'm Adrian and this is the 2019 Makerbox. Okay, so let's take a look in the box and see what we got this month. Alright, so we have some stickers. We got a Snow Lab sticker. We got a Makerbox 2019 calendar, little magnetic calendar. We have a Chris's Basement card with Chris Riley and his YouTube and his other information. We got a Chris's Basement sticker. Some Haribo. I can never pronounce that right. All I know is they taste good. We have a Makerbox. The gives you a link to the discounts on the brands that are included in the box. Okay, what is this? This is an eSun product manual for the eSun Filament, and that's pretty cool. Well, they actually have more than I thought they did. There is quite a bit. So we have that. Alright, first filament is going to be Snow Labs Carbon Fiber PC Plus. 235 to 260 on the hot end, 90 to 100 C on the bed. It says low or no cooling, advanced material, hardened nozzle, enclosure, and ventilation are all advised, must be printed dry. Alright, so this one, very cool, but will pose some challenges. The hardened nozzle is not a problem for me. I do not have any enclosure to put my CR10 in, so I'll have to figure that one out. Yeah, we'll see, but that is pretty cool. Some polycarbonate would be pretty cool to try, so alright, so there we go. Next is Push Plastic PLA Mint. So 190 to 220 C on the hot end, 0 to 60 C on the bed. And it says 50% extra length in this sample this month. Made in the US with 100% virgin materials. And I do like that color. That's very cool. It's a mint kind of aqua kind of color. Very nice. And then eSun Magenta Pet G. That's very pretty. Magenta Pet G. 240 to 255 C on the hot end, room temperature to 90 C on the bed. So, alright, so that is cool. I like that. That one's nice. And then last we have Color Fab Copper Fill. That's very cool. Wow, and this one is significantly heavier. You can tell it's definitely actually metal filled. It's not copper colored. You can feel the weight. It's 195 to 220 C on the hot end, room temp to 60 C on the bed. And this is the Color Fab PLA PHA blended with copper powder for a filament that's about 3 times denser than PLA. Sand and polish with progressively finer grits of sandpaper and polish with steel wool for a metallic looking print. So that is nice. I like that. I've tried some copper colored filament. I've been wanting to try copper filled filament, so this is good timing. So, okay. So what I want to do a little different than the previous months is I would actually like to go ahead and print some of my Maker coins using these filaments. However, I've never used Pet G before, so there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there with that. Hopefully I have enough filament to get my settings dialed in and get this to print correctly. And then the Carbon Fiber PC Plus, I'll have to see if I can maybe get a giant cardboard box to use as an enclosure and maybe move it somewhere that's ventilated well away from myself and my wife and my kids. But if I can, I will include one of this as well. So once I get some stuff printed, we will be back. Alright, welcome back. We've got some prints here. I'm going to start with the Carbon Fiber PC Plus from Snow Labs. I did not try this one because I have a hardened steel nozzle on my CR10, but I do not have an enclosure, and it says also needs to be ventilated, and I just didn't have anywhere to use it. I would have put it outside, maybe in my carport, but it's wintertime, so it'd be too cold. So I'm sure this is great filament, but my only problem with it is that I think the average hobbyist doesn't have a hardened steel nozzle and an enclosure and somewhere that's well ventilated to use this. So I could be wrong though. I mean, leave me a comment down in the comments and let me know what you think. So we didn't print with that one. Next is the Push Plastic Mint PLA, and this is the one where you had 50% extra length on this one, so I actually still have plenty left on it. And what I did is my Maker coin on the CR10 at 205 degrees, 0.16 layer height, and I love the color. The color is just awesome. I actually also printed this little container, and this was at also 205, 40% scale. The color is great. I think it needs a little bit more dialing in because the layers just aren't real even, so the sides aren't very smooth. It's not bad, it's just I think it needs a little bit more work. And I tried a few different flow rates, and I need to play with temperatures some more, but I think this one's just going to take a little bit more dialing in than your average filament. So I love the color. I do like the finish of it. Just needs a little bit more work. Next we have the eSun Magenta PET G, and you can see I do not have much of this left. I've never used PET G before. PLA it works for everything I've needed it for, and I read that there were, PET G was supposed to be a little bit more difficult to print, so I never used it. But on these subscription boxes, I'm wanting to try to use as much of the filament that comes in them as possible, so I decided, it's time to go ahead and try some PET G. And I have to say I'm really glad that I did. The Maker coin, I did some research online, and I made a base profile loosely based off my PLA profile with, of course, different temperature, different first layer speeds and things like that. And really, aside from first layer adhesion issues, it really wasn't as difficult to print as I thought. The Maker coin was at 245 degrees on the CR10, and this is straight off the printer. I mean, there's barely any stringing. The nozzle did want to pick up a little bit of the filament as it went, so there's a couple little spots, but I mean, I can probably just scrape those off, and they come off. It printed really well. I really like it. The color is awesome. I also printed this faceted vase, 245 degrees on this also, 61% scale at 0.2 layer height. And this really shows kind of the main reason I did want to try some PET G is because the translucents are just beautiful. I mean, just really pretty. Translucent PLAs can be very pretty also, but to me all the PET Gs they pop a little bit more. The color just, I don't know, is just better. So I'm really happy with this filament. I like it. This was really easy to print with. It also shows off one of the other interesting properties of PET G. It's much more flexible than PLA, withstands higher temperatures better, so just depending on your needs, it might be a good choice. I'm probably going to start printing more of my translucents in PET G, and I still love the translucent PLAs, don't get me wrong, they still definitely have their place, especially if you need something that's more stiff. But the PET G really wasn't as bad as I thought, so if you've kind of been wanting to try it but haven't been too sure, give it a try. It's not as bad as I was expecting, and the results are just awesome. So that was the eSun. Last, we have the ColorFab copper fill. The first thing you'll notice, and I mentioned this previously, is the weight of this filament. It's seriously heavy, and I mean that in a good way. The Maker coin was 220 degrees, 0.16 layer height, and my regular Maker coins, they're not heavy at all, but they're not real light. They're 9-10 grams. This one feels like a real coin. It definitely has lots of weight to it, and so that's really cool. I like that. So I printed this on the CR10 with the 0.5 millimeter hardened steel nozzle, and I had no issues printing it whatsoever. It printed great, no clogging, no under extrusion. It just printed fine. It printed really good. So the finished print, to me, looks like clay. Has a clay finish to it. It's interesting, and it almost kind of feels like clay too. So what I wanted to do with this one, some of the metal filled filaments you can actually sand and polish, and so I printed a second Maker coin and I sanded and polished it, and I think it came out really cool. It mostly looks kind of like a dull penny, but you can see where the copper color, when the light hits it right, really starts to shine through. And I think that some of that was kind of my fault. I think I rushed through the grits when I was sanding and polishing it. I did 200, 400, 800, and 1000 grit on this, and then I used a little bit of white rouge on a little buffing wheel in my drill, and then I did some Meguiar's Plastic X after that, and the finish is really smooth. It's really, really smooth, but I think that if you take your time maybe and go through the grits a little bit more slowly and polish it out a little bit more, I think you might get a little bit more of that real coppery color. So I think really some of the color is on me, but even still, it's really cool. You can see the difference in the color. And polished up, this thing looks really neat. It's very cool. So this is definitely a very, very cool filament. You do want a hardened nozzle for it, but it prints really well, really easy. Alright, so there we go. That is this month's Makerbox, the one for January 2019. Some really cool filaments. Just cool different stuff to experiment with. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and happy printing.